So the first of the royal arrivals, the Earl and Countess of Wessex. The Earl of Wessex, vice patron of the Commonwealth Games Federation, made the closing speech at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, opened the 1990 Commonwealth Games in New Zealand and the 1998 Games in Malaysia. And as we were hearing, the Countess of Wessex very interested in various Commonwealth causes, including ending avoidable blindness. She recently visited Malawi, visiting the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust Trachoma initiative in Malawi.
He's literally just returned, actually, from a trip to South Sudan over the weekend, where she marked International Women's Day. And as you say, avoidable blindness, very much a key part of her work.
And here, and the next car, and you can hear, I think, see the people lined up to greet the next royal party to arrive. This is His Highness the Duke of Sussex and Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex.
Huge cheers. The Duchess there is wearing a Amelia Wickstead dress and a hat by William Chambers, and of course for them this is the last time they'll be walking into the Abbey this way.
No surprise we're seeing the battery of newspaper photographers' lights flashing. The last time the Sussexes will appear in public before standing back as senior members of the royal family. Talking there to the Dean of the Abbey, and smiles as they're brought in to meet the receiving line. The Dean, the Very Reverend Dr. David Hoyle, installed as the 39th Dean of Westminster in November 2019. They're introduced first of all to the Venerable David Stanton, Sub-Dean and Canon Treasurer. Reverend Anthony Ball, Canon Steward and Almoner. Alan Theologian, the Reverend Dr. James Hawkey. Paul Baumann, Receiver General and Chapter Clerk. His Grace the Duke of Buccleuch and the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That's Patricia Scotland, Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Scotland.
It's clear the message has gone out that there are to be no handshakes.
Her husband Richard Mawhinney. And the Right Honourable Lord Howell of Guildford, Chair of the Council of the Commonwealth Society. Now the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge arriving. This royal gathering to honour Commonwealth Day. This is almost something from the Queen, isn't it? I expect my family to support the Commonwealth as I have throughout my life.
Well, indeed, Betrock, all members of the family are raised on the stories of the Commonwealth. The Queen became Queen while she was at the heart of the Commonwealth in Kenya. They've all, the very first, we see the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge there, their very first overseas tour together was to a Commonwealth country, to Canada. And it just forms part of royal life, and you may go on certain tours to different countries, but in between a tour around Europe or around the UK, there'll always be a Commonwealth tour as well.
Sometimes it's about grand celebration, sometimes it might be tied in with trade, sometimes it's simply about solidarity, isn't it? As we saw in April of last year when the Duke of Cambridge visited New Zealand in the aftermath of the Christchurch mosque shootings.
Very much as we saw in the film earlier, he went straight out there after that. Followed on from after the earthquake in Christchurch in 2011, he went out there straight after that as well, where we see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex being led to their seats.
Lesotho, the Commonwealth country that he enjoys a particularly close relationship with, having founded his charity Sentabile with Prince Seso of Lesotho to work with children and young people affected with HIV in both Lesotho and Botswana.
It was one of Prince Harry's first creations, as charitable creations, was Sentabile, as you say, in Lesotho. He goes there regularly. It's very close to his heart. He's still a very active fundraiser for it, and it's yet another example of the way in which the royal family at so many levels are connected with the Commonwealth. And here, of course,
the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cambridge making their appearance. Now, the Prince of Wales visited 45 out of 54 countries of the Commonwealth. And we've already seen a bit of it this afternoon when you watch those pictures of the Prince on duty in the Commonwealth. there does seem to be a sheer pleasure in the encounters he has. Like his mother, it is something he has become passionate about.
Yes, I think he once made a wonderful speech in 2013. He reflected on his life with Commonwealth leaders and how as a boy he'd grown up with these Commonwealth leaders coming to stay, how as a student he'd been water skiing with the Prime Minister of Malta, and all these stories going back to the early years of his life. When
look closely and you can see the Prince of Wales is declining to shake hands this afternoon, but is doing the traditional namaste. I wondered if we might see the Prime Minister do a sort of a shoulder to people, but the Prince has decided to namaste people.
Oh, nearly a handshake there from the Prime Minister. He's having to hold himself back.
Yes.
Oh yes, namaste, very good, Your Honour.
Taking into account the fears of coronavirus, of course. Greeting Baroness Scotland, the Commonwealth Secretary General. Lord Howell of Guildford, Chair of the Commonwealth Society, and Dr. Linda Yu there, who's Chief Executive of the Royal Commonwealth Society. So we have now the royal family, except Her Majesty the Queen, whose car we are expecting to arrive any moment. As soon as she arrives in front of the Abbey, her arrival will be serenaded by a fanfare from the state trumpeters of the Household Cavalry up in the Abbot's Pew above the Great West Door. Duchess of Cambridge making their way through the choir down towards the high altar where their seats are. Their trip to Pakistan in October this year, really a very important Commonwealth trip, a great sign of a return to some normality in Pakistan.
Yes, Pakistan over the years twice been suspended from the Commonwealth, once actually withdrew altogether back in the 70s, but now very much back at the heart of things, and that visit by the Duke and Duchess, a very significant one, very warmly welcomed by them, and now they take their seats with the other members of the family.
So we await the arrival of the Queen. Prince of Wales looking over his shoulder to see if he can see her car arriving. The Prince of Wales undertook an autumn tour to India, New Zealand and the Solomon Islands. What was his 10th official visit to India? Attended a service at the Delhi War Memorial where he met with gardeners from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission who tend to the cemetery. And the Commonwealth War Graves really a very important part of what the Commonwealth do, maintaining these graveyards across the continents immaculately.
One of the oldest Commonwealth organisations, the War Graves Commission.
5 million men and women from the country of the Commonwealth saw wartime service during the Second World War. 6 million soldiers from across the Commonwealth, or what became the Commonwealth, mobilised for World War I. 1.1 million British and Commonwealth servicemen killed. And wherever you see those Commonwealth graves, they are immaculate, perfectly mowed lawns, well-tended memorials, the gravestones kept immaculately clean, shrubs on the graves reflecting the part of the world where the graveyards are. I've been to several of the ones where soldiers who fought in the Burma Railway are buried, and it is always a deeply moving experience.
Wherever you go in the world it is, and it's another reminder of why today matters. It's those shared bonds, not just of language and law and culture, but also shared sacrifice.
And the Outriders Here is the car bearing Her Majesty the Queen. Cheers from the crowds in front of Westminster Abbey, and we'll stand by for that fanfare from the state trumpeters of the Household Cavalry to mark her arrival here at this Commonwealth Day of celebration. Her Majesty the Queen, monarch, head of state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, but Queen too in 15 Commonwealth realms, Queen of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, Belize, Papua New Guinea, St Christopher or St Kitts and Nevis, St Vincent and the Grenadines, Tuvalu, Barbados, Grenada, Solomon Islands, St Lucia and the Bahamas. Queen of the world in some ways, Robert.
It certainly feels like that on a day like today, Petrock. The Queen is wearing a Stuart Parvin coat, as described as Air Force blue cashmere coat with black and burnt orange. This is an event that she knows better than anyone. She's never missed one. She's attended more of these than anybody else. The Prime Minister bowing there and the Dean taking her down the line. She knows most of these people already. She'll know the hymns, she'll know the running order. She's just saying hello there to Lord Howell Guilford, Chairman and President of the Royal Commonwealth Society. For her, this is a meeting. She's often described the Commonwealth as her family of nations, and as she turns to see the Prince of Wales, she's with her family.
She stands now by the memorial to Winston Churchill as we prepare for the start of this Commonwealth Day service. Gordon Jacobs' arrangement of the national anthem and the fanfare team from the band of the Grenadier Guards. So as the choristers of Westminster Abbey process forward to be followed by the royal party, the opening hymn, Praise to the Lord the Almighty, the King of Creation.
On behalf of the Dean and Chapter, I welcome you warmly to Westminster Abbey for our annual celebration of the Commonwealth. We gather in this house of prayer to celebrate our common life as God's people and to celebrate as a Commonwealth of nations. Today, we look for the words to express a hope we can share, the common future in which we all might flourish. So we pray for God's guidance. We seek the gifts of an imagination that can hope abundantly and a courage to seize that hope. Confident in the richness and range of our Commonwealth, we are one people with one hope under God. Let us pray in the words our Saviour gave us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
We go to the Great West Door for Ghanaian drummers, One Drum, performing music from Rwanda in Ture.
Murakoze, murakoze, murakoze cyane! Murakoze cyane!
next to Scientist's Corner in front of a memorial to Sir Isaac Newton. Alexandra Burke sings Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby. If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far. Don't worry, babe, just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. Remember the day I set you free? I told you you can always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. 'Cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. No wind, no rain, no winter storm can't stop me, baby. If you're ever in trouble, I'll be there on the double. Just send for me, my baby. My love is alive, even when we're apart, no matter how far we are. If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double, as fast as I can. Baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. Don't you know there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe.
Next, a reflection from British World Heavyweight Boxing Champion Anthony Joshua.
My name is Anthony Oluwafemi Olasheni Joshua, and like many of you here, I'm a child of the Commonwealth. I was born in Watford, and my heritage is Nigerian. I come from the Yoruba people, who are the largest, and some might say the loudest, ethnic group in all of Africa. I am proudly Nigerian, and I'm proudly British, and I join a long line, perhaps too long to count, of UK citizens of Commonwealth origin who've made enormous contributions to this great multicultural society of ours. In my world, that would include names such as Joshua Buatsi, Lawrence Okoli, and Ramla Ali, but there are so many more members of the Commonwealth family, including David Ajayi, one of UK's greatest architects, the Imafidons, arguably Britain's brainiest family, and of course, the countless nurses, teachers, and doctors that have made the UK their home, strengthening the very fabric of our society and our economy. We must never forget either our Commonwealth cousins who stood shoulder to shoulder in battle. Not to mention the amazing impact that all of these people, hailing from the furthest reaches of the globe, have had on our culture, sense of national identity. My own eyes were opened to this amazing family for the first time when I traveled to Nigeria as a child. Whilst I saw some similarities between our two countries, given our shared heritage as nations, there was a wealth of difference and a world of exciting possibilities. That realization has stayed with me all my life. Like me, so many children of the Commonwealth have two homes, two identities, two cultures, and two ways of viewing the world. Some even have more than two. These days, we hear so much about division and difference that some might be tempted to see that as a bad thing. But on the contrary, it's a beautiful thing, a thing to be celebrated and cherished, and a great source of peace and stability. In this world of extreme connectivity, who better to connect us and shape our common future than the children of the Commonwealth, who have a foot in two camps and desperately want to see both sides succeed. There are times when it's important to talk about values, our personal values, and those that bind us together as a society, and this is one of those times. Fairness, determination, tolerance, respect, understanding. I learned many of those values in the ring, but I apply them to my everyday life. Our values define us and how we conduct ourselves. They are what we put out in the universe and what we shall receive in return. Respect for the dignity of our Commonwealth cousins and for all human beings is critical to bringing our society and communities together and making them prosperous. I feel opportunity should be there for the taking, along with hard work, dedication, and perseverance, regardless of one's background. We need to strive harder collectively in order to create unity. It takes a village to raise a child, and in the same vein, it takes a whole community to act and stand together to tackle some of the challenges we are confronted with today. With unity and a shared vision, we could help to improve the lives and prospects of our Commonwealth family and mutually benefit in the process. People like myself, as well as some of the other stellar names I've already mentioned, will be perfectly placed to assist with the re-engagement with the Commonwealth and act as ambassadors for the two cultures and countries we represent. It will enable enormous potential of the Commonwealth's 1.4 billion young people to transform our world for the better. In the same way boxing gave me the opportunity and framework to become Olympic champion, Commonwealth champion, and now into heavyweight champion of the world. But I asked myself, what does the Commonwealth really mean? The second part of that word is key for me. A united common future could create opportunities for our Commonwealth cousins, whether they're growing up in Nigeria, Australia, Bangladesh, or Jamaica, or right here in Britain. So, here's to fish and chips, and a goosey soup and pounded jam, to the UK and Nigeria, and to the children of the Commonwealth. Thank you very much for listening.
And now James O'Donnell, organist and master of the choristers, directs Britain's anthem, "O be joyful in the Lord, all ye lands."
It is he that hath made us, and was we
Prime Minister.
Wanting to justify himself, the lawyer asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise."
Boris Johnson reading the parable of the Good Samaritan. Next, the great Welsh hymn tune St Denio, immortal, invisible, God only wise. The poet and YouTube star Sully Breaks.
Hello, my name is Sully Breaks, and I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to be in the presence. Hello, my name is Sully Breaks. It's a bit early there. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be in the presence of so many esteemed individuals who were united irrespective of culture, race, or background by a common theme and a common idea. And I think that idea, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we can all collectively make the world a better place. And I think really that's all it takes, ideas and creativity, because those are what send footballs spinning into the back of nets. They send men to the moon, and women as well. And they leave the world at our fingertips. So I just wanted to share a short piece, short so you can get onto the more exciting forms of entertainment, about the power of ideas. Chapter 1. It starts with an idea. A boy or girl in a bedroom with nothing but a pen and a laptop. Chapter 2. That pen has scribbled across that page numerous times, and that laptop has spent hours illuminated in front of tired eyes and cans of energy drink. And that idea has become a passion/obsession. Chapter 3, that idea turned passion/obsession has found its way into the inbox of like-minded individuals, friends and family, signed off with the words, "Honestly, tell me what you think. Do you think that this will bang?" Chapter 5, the idea turned passion, turned confirmation from friends and family that it is indeed a good idea and it will actually bang, has become a project. Let's skip to chapter 5. That project has become viable. That project has become a reality. That project, that idea, has become the potential to change the world. Because as logical people, we sometimes become stuck in our ways, reluctant to change, function the same when there's nothing to gain. Forgetting that all skyscrapers were once just slabs of stone. Google was once just a scrap of codes. But in this story, there's no guarantee that we'll live happily ever after or ride off into the sunset. We don't even know if we'll be able to afford next month's rent. But let's think back to chapter 1. That idea could have been the light bulb. That boy could have been Nikola Tesla. That idea could have been freedom. That girl could have been Nina Simone. Because all it ever takes is an idea and a lot of effort, whether it happens in a meeting, boardroom, or campus dorm room. It's only ever taken one idea to make a difference. It's only ever taken one idea to change the world. Thank you guys very much.
And next, the faith leaders. First, we're going to hear from Archbishop Nikitas, representing the Greek Orthodox Church.
Direct our steps to fulfill your commandments. Transform our hearts so that we may experience the peace, love, and unity that only comes from you. Break the barriers of hatred and injustice which shatter our society. Grant us faith and love as we sojourn toward a better future together.
And next, Sheikh Ibrahim Mogra, representing the Muslim community.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. O Lord, you are peace, and from you is peace. You created us from a single pair and made us into different people so that we may know one another. God, enable us to respect this diversity. Join together our hearts. Free us from hunger, disease, hate, and prejudice. Through your grace and your mercy, answer our prayer. Amen.
Next, the Venerable Bogoda Silawimala, representing the Buddhist community.
May we all strive towards overcoming the unwholesome state of mind which has already arisen. May we all strive towards preventing the unwholesome state of mind which has not yet arisen. May we all strive towards producing a peaceful state of mind which we have not yet experienced. May we all strive towards continuing the peace of mind which we have already experienced.
And a final prayer from Rabbi Danny Rich, representing Liberal Judaism.
Long ago, the rabbis wrote, "A single human family was made at creation for the sake of peace. So we cannot say one to another, 'My ancestor was greater than your ancestor.' The Commonwealth reflects this in its celebration of a single, diverse family under the sovereignty of God. And let us pray that our Creator might imbue us with the ability to see each other through God's eyes as equals."
And now James O'Donnell conducts the Westminster Abbey Choir in the anthem Angel Voices Ever Singing. Music by Bob Chilcott, words by Francis Pott. Now, the Cosmati pavement was laid in 1268 on the orders of Henry III. It is one of the crowning jewels of Westminster Abbey, and this afternoon it becomes a stage for Craig David, who's going to sing Unbelievable.
Always said I would know where to find love. Always thought I'd be ready and strong enough. But somehow I just felt I could give up. Then you came and you changed my whole world now. I'm somewhere I never thought I'd be. Now I see what love means. It's so unbelievable, and I don't want to let it go. Something so beautiful, flowing down like a waterfall. I feel like you've always been forever a part of me, and it's so unbelievable to finally be in love, somewhere I never thought I'd be. In my head, in my heart, it's so clear now. Hold my hand, you've got nothing to fear now. I was lost and you rescued me somehow. I'm alive, I'm in love, you complete me. I'm somewhere I never thought I'd be. Now I see what love means. I'm so unbelievable, and I don't want to let it go. Something so beautiful, flowing down like a waterfall. I feel like you've always been forever a part of me, and it's so unbelievable to finally be in love, somewhere I never thought I'd be. When I think of what I have and this chance I nearly lost, I can't help but break down and cry. Oh yeah, break down and cry. Oh no, it's so unbelievable, and I don't want to let it go. Something so beautiful, flowing down like a waterfall. I feel like you've always been forever a part of me, and it's so unbelievable to finally be in love, somewhere I never thought I'd be. Now I see what love means.
Through the great west door of the Abbey next, where we find the Melodian Steel Orchestra with a specially created Commonwealth melody. Next, Baroness Scotland, Secretary-General of the Commonwealth, speaking at the great pulpit.
Let us now stand to pledge ourselves afresh to uphold and serve the values and fellowship of the Commonwealth. We affirm that every person possesses unique worth and dignity. We affirm our respect for nature and that we will be stewards of the earth by caring for every part of it and for it as a whole. We affirm our belief in justice for everyone and peace among peoples and nations, joining together in kinship and affinity, in diversity and unity, as members of a worldwide family of nations. We build on shared inheritances. We cooperate with mutual respect and goodwill to deliver a common future for the good of all. Through Commonwealth connection, we learn from one another and innovate to transform our communities, our nations, and our world. We affirm our belief in the Commonwealth as a powerful influence for good and pledge ourselves to its service now and for the future.
The final hymn in this Commonwealth Day service, Charles Wesley's great Love Divine, All Loves Excelling.
God grant to the living grace, to the departed rest, to the Church, the Queen, the Commonwealth, and all people, peace and concord, and to us sinners, life everlasting. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be among you and remain with you always.
The new Dean of Westminster, the Very Reverend Dr. David Hoyle, giving the blessing which marks the end of today's service of celebration for the Commonwealth. Dean appointed 39th Dean of Westminster in November last year. Prior to that, he was Dean of Bristol, today overseeing his first major state event, one of a regular calendar of great events that take place here at Westminster Abbey. A royal peculiar under the direct control of the Queen, the Dean responsible to the sovereign alone. Choir and clergy progress out towards the west door. 30 boys in the choir, all of whom attend the Abbey's dedicated residential choir school. 12 professional adult singers. Their main focus to sing the daily choral services in the Abbey, a tradition which stretches back more than 600 years. James O'Donnell, organist and master of the choristers. And we're listening now to sub-organist Peter Holder. The Commonwealth Mace. Darian Nareen from Trinidad and Tobago holding the mace. He is the current chair of the youth-led International Task Force for the Commonwealth Youth Forum, to be held in Rwanda. And in front of him, the Commonwealth flag. Oluwashin Ayodeji from Nigeria carrying that Commonwealth flag. Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall. Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. As we've heard this afternoon, this the last time they will appear in public before stepping back as senior members of the royal family. The Earl and Countess of Wessex bring the back of the royal party. The clergy there, the mace. Mace, a gift of the Royal Anniversary Trust to the Queen in her role as head of the Commonwealth on the 40th anniversary of her accession to the throne. Made of gold and silver, covered in little studs with the flags of each country of the Commonwealth. 53 countries, I think, represented on the mace, now 54 Commonwealth members after the reintroduction of the Maldives to the Commonwealth family just over a month ago. Well, Robert Hardman has been with me this afternoon here in Westminster Abbey. So many things to reflect on from watching this service. First of all, as we look at all the main players in the royal family, led by Her Majesty the Queen, and all of them playing some role in the Commonwealth.
All, as you say, Petrock, all have a long, lifelong connection with this organisation, but none more so than the Queen herself, as she goes to thank the clergy for their role in a service that, as we discussed earlier, she very much helped to create herself.
The Reverend Christopher Stoltz, their minor canon and presenter, leaving Westminster Abbey, but he's been very much involved on a day-to-day basis in organising this service. Reverend Mark Birch, minor canon and sacrist, and the Reverend Jennifer Peterson, minor canon and chaplain here at Westminster Abbey. And the Dean, the new Dean, is going to have to get used to major events like this here in this Abbey Church, this royal peculiar, this national church.
Yes, as Dean, you really do find yourself at the heart of the national story.
The Aga Khan, President of the Royal Commonwealth Society.
I mean, this is somewhere that this is where, you know, quite aside from coronations, the monarch is so often here for services of national Thanksgiving. We've got VE Day coming up in May. The Queen will obviously be marking that here. we see coming up behind her all the other members of the royal family. The Prince of Wales there, namaste, as he says, cunningly avoiding a handshake. He's, of course, next week he'll be off to the Commonwealth himself. He's paying a visit to Cyprus. Last year he visited 20 Commonwealth countries in 1 year alone. There'll be more of the same this year. Just behind him, the Duchess of Cornwall, of course, who presides over the Commonwealth Essay Prize, the oldest writing competition in the world. So all these threads coming together in front of our eyes.
We just saw there the Queen greeting Alexandra Burke, who entertained us this afternoon, Craig David, and towering at the end of the line, championship boxer Anthony Joshua, who I think spoke so interestingly about the Commonwealth and about his role as someone who has a foot in two camps, both British and Nigerian, and how that is an experience for so many people within this Commonwealth of Nations.
I thought it was a wonderful speech. As he said earlier, he was a bit nervous about it, but I think he just captured the essence of the Commonwealth. He talked about two ways of seeing life. I think that's so important. Queen clearly delighted to meet him.
She comes out through the Great West Door onto the steps outside the Abbey. Thousands of people watching. You can't see them, they're behind barriers on the other side of the road, but many people turning out to support this event as she's presented by posies, and we hear the bells of Westminster Abbey ring. And I think a second, Robert, just to reflect on how important the Commonwealth has been to the Queen throughout her reign. There have been plenty of an occasion when she's sided with the Commonwealth over the advice of her own British government ministers.
Exactly. She's nursed it really through its infancy. When she came to the throne, there were just 8 members of the Commonwealth. Today, 54. And there have been many bumps along the road, and there have been moments where the organisation has found itself at odds, sometimes with splitting in half, sometimes just trying to find its feet. And the Queen's always been there. In the early days of Marlborough House being the seat of the Secretary-General, it was the Queen who handed over one of the family homes to this organisation. It remains at the heart of royal life.
And there is no doubt that the Commonwealth benefits enormously from the stardust that Her Majesty the Queen and other members of the royal family sprinkle upon it. It might not even exist if it wasn't for this direct royal support.
It has been said in recent years, as the Commonwealth has receded, we have to accept it's not the power it once was, but it is having members of the royal family like the Duke of Cambridge and the Duchess. It's having that royal stardust, as you say, Petrol, that just gives it that little bit. It's a unique organisation, and in a world of so many multinational organisations, whether it's the G7 or the EU or APEC or OPEC or whatever you want, the Commonwealth does have something unique about it. We get a flavour of it today. It operates in a unique space, and it does have at the heart of it the Queen there, the head of the Commonwealth, who has known all its leaders, hundreds of leaders now, over nearly 70 years as head.
Prince Charles behind the Queen, who will take over as head of the Commonwealth, and clearly shares many of the views and concerns that Commonwealth countries face every day. Many issues, particularly around the environment, are very dear to him and are a matter of life and death for some Commonwealth nations.
They are, and over the years, the Commonwealth has found itself at loggerheads over lots of issues. It can argue over the tiniest things, but it was absolutely unanimous in 2018 that the Prince of Wales would be the next head of the Commonwealth. It's not automatic, it's not a hereditary title, but they wanted him, and they know, all these nations know how close the environment is to his heart.
The Queen gets into her car to return to Buckingham Palace. Other members of the royal family will this evening go to a reception to celebrate the work of the Commonwealth, as the Duke of Cambridge, in conversation with Anthony Joshua, you could see during Anthony Joshua's speech a reflection of what he was saying amongst the younger members of the royal family, and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Now, are we ever going to see them again in a situation quite like this, Robert? We've talked a lot this afternoon about how this is their last public engagement before they step down or step back as senior members of the royal family. How are we going to see them next?
Well, it's certainly the last time for a considerable time, I expect, that we'll see them at this sort of event, where the protocol is running everything. There we see that the Queen has to leave first and the Prince of Wales leaves first. There's a pecking order for everything. You literally fall into line. Now that's the world they're moving away from. They're not leaving the royal family, certainly not leaving the Commonwealth. Prince Harry, he's going to be talking to lots of the people here in the Abbey today, just in a different guise in future. It's not going to be as His Royal Highness. It's not going to be at these state occasions. Fist bumping there, Craig David. Certainly, he's gone one step beyond the official guidance there, but then that's Prince Harry. It is, of course, a sad moment. I think there were moments during that service where you could see he was looking pensive, he was looking studious. This is all he's known. This is a world that he's been raised on, and it is going to be a shift when at the end of the month they move into this different phase of their life. But
and today must have been in some ways an anxious day, as we said right at the beginning, the first time that the whole royal family have been together since the announcement about the prince's change of situation was made. To be there with your siblings, with your father and with your grandmother, that must have been quite a tricky thing.
Well, it's the first time in public, but of course in private they have been talking to each other, and I think it underlines the fact that it moves at two levels. You've got the personal and the institutional, and here on show we've got them as a working family in public, but the family bonds are still there. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, of course, they have to leave ahead of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. That's just the way it goes. It's a pecking order, and that's one thing that won't change. Prince Harry remains 6 in line to the throne, but this sort of protocol, this sort of waiting while one car goes, having to wait for the next one, that's going to be a way of life that's simply going to move on for them now. But we'll be back. I mean, next month, hopefully, depending on travel plans, but hopefully at the moment the Duke of Sussex there, he's due back in London to mark the start of the London Marathon, and we'll just see them carrying on at a charitable level, but not at this sort of formal level.
We've talked about 54 members of the Commonwealth now. Is that it, or do you think it's going to grow further?
Well, there's always a queue, and there the Duke of Sussex himself, when he was in Southern Africa on his tour at the end of last year, he dropped in on Angola. Now, behind the scenes there were discussions. Angola, never part of the British Empire, never a country that doesn't speak English, but there again, another country that's seen what the Commonwealth can do for that part of the world. They're in the queue to join, and Prince Harry will have played his part in that.
And Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, with Carrie Symonds, his newly announced fiancée, and he is someone who is clearly going to work towards building a great relationship between London and the Commonwealth. Hasn't always been the case with recent Prime Ministers, has it?
No, it's certainly. John Major was very, very pro-Commonwealth, having lived in the Commonwealth. Duchess of Sussex congratulating Anthony Joshua in a speech. But in the Tony Blair years, there was a drop-off, no question. The Foreign Office moved its focus completely. I think sometimes forgot what the C in FCO stood for, but it's gone back to being the Foreign and Commonwealth Office now.
I think that one of the things that struck me most of all about today has been the sheer number of young people involved. I mean, most of the performers are pretty young, but watching the children, school children, Scouts, Girl Guides, etc., taking part in this Commonwealth service. As Anthony Joshua said in his speech, if you can enable the untapped and enormous potential of the Commonwealth, 1.4 billion young people, you can transform our world for the better. That sums it up, doesn't it?
It does, and as the Duke and Duchess leave, they in many ways, the organisation they represent now, the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, they're still President, Vice President of that. That's all about young people, as is indeed the Commonwealth Games, the next big Commonwealth event coming to Britain, and I suspect we will see both of them turning up for it in 2022 in Birmingham is the next Commonwealth Games.
And the Commonwealth Games come around the Olympics. They run 2 years between each Olympic Games. Of course they're not as big, but they're massively significant to sit. I remember going to the Commonwealth Games when they were in Manchester. Amazing major event, as will be in Birmingham in 2 years' time.
Indeed, and rather like the Invictus Games that the Duke of Sussex will be attending in The Hague in May, they are not like the Olympics. The Commonwealth Games often called the friendly games because there is just that added dimension of these shared links. And now I think this is a moving and very significant moment. I think this is a moment you'll see on a lot of front pages tomorrow as the couple, they're not just saying farewell to these young people on the steps by the Great West Door, but this is certainly au revoir, if not adieu. I think it's au revoir to a way of life that they will no longer be part of, certainly for the foreseeable future.
But not an au revoir entirely to the Commonwealth. Just this morning, the Duchess of Sussex was meeting with the Commonwealth Universities Association, of which she is very involved, which brings together hundreds of universities across the Commonwealth and helps them work together, helps them exchange learning, information and staff.
Exactly. More than 500 universities, the oldest university network in the world, going back to 1913, and the Duchess remains very much an active patron of that, in the same way that Duke himself is involved with so many other Commonwealth charities. That is not going to change.
This is the moment, isn't it? They're out of the Abbey, out of the fence that surrounds the Abbey, saying goodbye to those who have run today's service as they prepare to get into the car that will whisk them away from the Abbey, whisk them away from this great public event this afternoon, and whisk them away from public life, or at least from formal royal public life.
Formal royal public life. They are, next time we see them, it will be more a case of Call Me Harry. They'll still retain the HRH, but they won't be using it. They are effectively heading off to slightly uncharted waters, territory that members of the royal family haven't been to before. But the Queen wants to make it as give it the best possible chance. But there is this 12-month review just so that we can see how it pans out. Meanwhile, this is the traditional face of royalty, the Earl and Countess of Wessex doing what royals have done over the centuries and will continue to do.
And with very passionate and specialist interests. The Countess of Wessex particularly interested, we've been hearing, in issues around sight across the Commonwealth. Robert Harbin, thank you very much indeed for joining us here at Westminster Abbey this afternoon. The end of this great celebration, painting such a vivid picture of the Commonwealth and its 54 members. 2.4 billion people, countries large and small, rich and poor, countries working together to address issues relating to health, politics and the environment. All of them responding to the head of the Commonwealth, Her Majesty the Queen, whose service this has been this afternoon. From all of us here at Westminster Abbey, a very good afternoon.